Hello, hello. Hi guys. How's everybody?
It can't be anything else but cheery with that greeting.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
You're breaking up, Chase.
Yeah, I'm stepped out of the Wi-Fi.
Okay. Oh, that's a difficult boundary to be able to see.
Yeah, that moment it switches from
You
one to
hear
the
it?
other. Good evening, Ellie.
Yeah.
Hey, good evening, Heinz. Hi, Craig.
Craig said he was going to be on silence today, Ellie.
Okay.
And Hans has had a lot of pain to deal with, so
Oh,
he sometimes is just silent as well.
okay.
So it's let's see. So I don't know how to start it. And because what I'm looking for in my story is the blame, the blamer, the judger, and the victim. It's like those three really cover a lot of it. And as I say my story from my point of view, it'll have that in it. Like I can't help it. And it's just uh like it just reveals the patterns of who we are. And best word I can use is that I a situation happened. There was responses back and forth, and the responses built up uh, and finally released in a one-way conversation that I was listening or told not to speak into.
Mm.
But even as I knew it was there, yeah, I'll call it a scolding. A scolding for something I haven't done in 7 months. Now, what I haven't done in 7 months, I didn't even know I said it, but what I remember afterwards is that I regretted saying it. Now, I not just I regretted the tone in which it comes out. So not necessarily do I remember, because under pressure, right, in the middle of something, my statement, now it's going to seem harmless, but the point is that there's a history of my saying it and what's underneath the tone of saying it. So it's an automatic pattern of mine.
Mm.
And hasn't happened in 7 months. And 7 months ago, I was informed to never say it again. And so I said it again. And so the bomb drops.
Oh,
Now, the word is sweetheart. Now, I don't say it sweetheart like sweetheart. What I learned, and is true, is that when I can't make a left turn, sweetheart, I learned that made someone, my wife, feel stupid. And
so that's hurts again.
what's that?
So, sorry, Jess, that's her
No?
automatic, right?
Yeah, yeah, yep. That's like connected to it. And it's like, oh, yes, I must stop that, but like without without realizing I just can't turn the light switch. Like I
Mm.
said, it's happened 7 months ago, right? And it's like, okay, so it's yes. And it's like, oh, so on and so forth. Just a combination of automatics that I will,
Mm-hmm.
one sees, one doesn't.
Mm. Mm.
One, and again, I'm not work here to put blame, just work or judge or any of that. But just to, like I sat in the silence today and imagined like what must go in that, and I can honestly accept when I say it in that tone, I hear my dad. Like that's how
Mm.
far back it goes. And I can sit and wonder with like the what it must have been like growing up in a family, right, that can throw the anger tantrum and only one gets to speak because they will tell you how it's going to be. Oh, thank you for letting me get that out.
So, Jesse, may I comment on what I was getting?
Yes.
Okay. So, for me, there's a system of ultimatums. That is somebody's automatic pattern. And in the reaction to the defiance of the ultimatum, that is where the answer will lie. The reaction of that individual, the intensity of that reaction, that's where, for me, the answer for you and for them is. But for somebody that grew up in a family of ultimatums and then try and impose it on somebody else, that is a violation of somebody else's space and a disrespect to them as well. Nothing ever good comes from an ultimatum. Because it's a way of forcing. And as we know, when you force things, it never turns out the way that it's meant to be, is in the intention of the force. So then what happens is then everybody tiptoes and has to cope with that situation of ultimatums or possible ultimatums, because it's the system, it's a pattern of behavior. You just don't know what it is and when. It becomes a power struggle of trying to stand your ground and do what's right for you and your life. And they're trying to do the same thing for their life. But the tool they have is gaining power through this method of ultimatum. You do as I say or else, and we will tell you what you must do. So that's what I got from that, Jesse. Tell me if I'm incorrect.
Oh, great. Thank you for the window into that reality. I had thought of, or even never thought of what it would be like to live in an environment or a world, a reality of ultimatums.
Mm.
What I connected to was sitting in a child parent relationship in the moment of it. The adult saying all they needed to say, the child couldn't respond.
Mm.
Because that is what I felt in the moment. And not even realizing I said the words. Oh, but that's where all this anger is coming
Mm, sounded like the words was just a trigger for something deeper. They had
They
that
always
conversation
are.
about them speaking, and you are not allowed to speak. You're only allowed to listen, and it can't be just about that one word.
But it is. It's that ultimatum. I think it's like, no, I told you, right? You didn't listen. I told you. And there's no responsibility in that for the other person. So then it's always just one person's responsibility. It's the other person's responsibility. And I didn't mention the construction that was happening on this road that didn't allow me to take a normal turn. I didn't mention the 2 seconds before I got to the intersection, the directions changed. And I didn't mention the 2 times before that where the comments were made about my driving. What are you doing? Because I had to improvise.
Hmm.
I snapped with, I can't turn left, sweetheart. So I have to turn right and make a U-turn, just like I did the last time. Yeah. And then in the seat next to me is, what are you doing? Where are you going? That is a pattern
Oh.
that sits all the time, all the way around. Because and here's I'm venting a second because then I don't talk about what I'm doing. Like I don't. I'm not letting everyone know that I'm changing the plan within seconds. But what I realize is that as I decide, make the choice, boom, I have a reaction on the other end, and that's part of my defense system that makes me feel like I'm stupid. So the same pattern is happening both ways.
Mm.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jesse. When you are driving, you are in charge of the vehicle and you are going to
I was
have to
just
make
gonna say,
split-second decisions.
yeah,
And it's nobody else's
Yeah.
business as to what you are doing because it is your responsibility to keep you safe, to keep the
and
passengers safe,
everybody.
to keep the oncoming people outside safe, and your vehicle safe as well.
Mhm.
So if you make a split-second decision, it is all based on a lot of things that your passengers have no business in 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 questioning
Question.
why you did something in a split-second decision. I'm sorry. If they want to have that responsibility, then they should get behind the car wheel and do the driving themselves. But when they're in the
Exactly.
car, yes, when they're in the car, when they start talking like that, it is disrupting your focus on driving and keeping everybody safe as well.
Mm.
Yeah, I know.
So stop the car, let them out, and carry on.
And it is again an automatic as well, as if I'm doing something to their automatics where they don't know what the control is.
Mm. Mm. So I'll
They
say something.
don't know. So yes, of course, they don't know does make them feel like they're stupid. Again, a childhood's pattern.
Mhm.
So what
Oh,
lies underneath?
and by the way, is the people that are giving me the instructions, directions of where to go are the ones that are doing that because they know exactly where they're going and I don't. And it's so obvious because it's on this on my map here that I know where I'm. Anyway, yes. Thanks, Alice.
Oh, you're welcome. So I had a very similar conversation yesterday with somebody, and it was about how her experience of her judger was limiting her capacity to make decisions and just move on easily with the consequences that took place with other people, the consequences of her decisions. So it's very similar to what you've described. And what we did was we just kept on asking, so what lies underneath that? What lies underneath that? What lies underneath that? Until we got right to the very core of the experience of the survival of the ego.
Mhm.
And all those self-sabotaging messages that we give ourselves. So that's what I'm hearing is very, very, very present in the responses to your behavior. But as you have observed, you're the one that's able to see the interplay of the automatics. But the other person doesn't have that languaging or that awareness. It's not there for them yet. And so I don't know, of course, but my question is, I know that you asked us to hear to listen for you, and where you play victim and where you play judger and blamer. And so in the listening of that, you I'm sure you felt it even yourself, where as you were talking, right? You can, when we're judging, or we're or we're blaming, the whole tone of our voice and that experience for me, in my chest, it changes. So I couldn't hear anywhere where you weren't aware of acting that out. And I'm sure that you got to a different layer of awareness just by talking about it, just by voicing it this morning. So what I'm left with is to ask you to ask yourself, how do you best move going forward with knowing that the other person can't see what you see? And so they can't listen, they can't hear a lot of what you see. And so this is where you have to ask for outside help. That's, for me, that would be the question for myself, would be, okay, so now the person they can't hear me, no matter how I try to frame my sentencing different, how I might change the tone of my voice. And, sometimes we're surprised, right? Sometimes we think, well, this is a lost cause. This is not going to go anywhere. I need outside facilitation. And then often what will happen is, when we just take a chance and we speak to that underlying the primary emotion of what's really going on. But you cannot do it, as a very famous therapist said once, don't strike while the iron is hot. You have to wait. And the reason why you wait is so that your nervous system and the other person's nervous system can be more or less settled. Because somebody that exchanges ultimatums and uses ultimatums has got a very tight experience in their body. Because ultimatums are about survival.
And it's funny, you just answered 3 or 4 questions in one, and then you get blamed for answering. Often people that ask questions ask it rhetorically, but when you answer the rhetorical question, they don't like the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Good morning, beautiful souls.
Good morning, Sidrell.
I'm in the middle of the middle here. Wow. I you guys are fabulous. So
Me,
glad
Sandra?
to have converged here. Good afternoon or good night, wherever you are in this world. My my mind is blown right now. I just love the way the universe works. I love it, and I'm glad to witness it. Allison, you were saying, you know, diabolically different from Strike While Iron is Hot. You're like, don't. And that's what I was experiencing yesterday with a I'll call it testing my coaching skills, segments of things. And but I like has put up, and while so positively putting that brick wall is so solid. So it was like I couldn't serve her like I wanted to serve her. So I had to like put all of that down and just observe what she was doing. And I couldn't challenge her on what I was feeling in the subconscious zone that I was sensitive to. It was like, shut up, Syndrome. Don't say anything there. All I could
I'm
do was
sorry
let her
to laugh.
spew it out. What you say?
I'm sorry to laugh, but it's just that we all find ourselves in that situation, right? Where we have to say to ourselves, zip it. Like then now's not the moment. Just zip it.
Oh man. Man, she was fighting for herself. Like, I don't want this, and I don't want that. And, you know, I'm just giving up on you know, I was hurt and I ain't even trying to have that. It's not going to happen anymore. I was just like, wow. And I wanted to say, so you don't want to live love too much. I don't even, and I only thing I could really leave her. And she was like, oh, I didn't really feel anything, I think. But everything she said after that was like, maybe she was more like a 5. Just because of the conversation and awareness to mark her territory where she stood and stayed on everything. But I couldn't tell her she was a 5 because that's what I was. But she held fast. No, this was nothing. I said, well, it's okay. You don't even have to experience being here with me is positive power. And the awareness is, you know, may never come, but whatever you want, desire, you may feel or experience or hear a whisper or in the next few days, weeks, or months. So it's okay. You only, you only participate that you're called to participate in. So it's all right. Self like this, nothing makes me. And I had to be okay also with staying in innocence of knowing it and super consciousness and in everything that was true, that is true.
Mm.
Wow.
And therein for me lies the key.
Talk
Of
about it.
remembering what we are, which is way more than our personality. Our personalities get triggered. And if we can be compassionate with that trigger in ourselves, then we can be compassionate with the trigger in the other. But I go back to that statement that I found that obviously resonated very deeply. Otherwise, I wouldn't have written it down. Of how we love and how we allow ourselves to be loved is all that matters. And sometimes what another person deems with all of their being to be loving, and it doesn't work for you, it is really important that you can acknowledge that that is not what loving is for you. And there's no judgment in that. There's choice. But there's So Jessie, I'd like to hear from you whether you feel like what we've been able to bring has hit the mark in terms of what you asked us from us. And what you asked was to see where your judger and blamer and victim, was speaking.
And I orient from that request because that is the only thing that I can change.
Mm. Mm.
So the one thing that wasn't really addressed too much is the victim part.
Hmm.
And the victim here is the child in you.
Mhm.
Because you mentioned several times that it reminded you of when you were a child, that they were speaking to you as if you were a child in an adult body. And it's that child that's trying to cope, because it takes you back to a time where you experienced that. And how did you cope at that time? And the adult is trying to cope in a different way than the child. And yet the child is reminding the adult about that previous experience.
Yep. Oh, I mean, mine is to fight back. That's what I've learned. Like anger and fighting, aggression has always been like that is the automatic pattern. So that is part of my victim, right? It's like when I realize it, that I'm in the victim, is like my defenses elevate, which is why I don't even remember saying the phrase that triggered it all. I could only feel the emotion, like I could sense, I felt it afterwards because it was like, ow, that was sharp.
So the intention that this person had on those words previously, months ago, was one thing, and maybe how you said it, and you don't even really remember that clearly either. But the intention in how it was said this time had nothing to do with the intention of that time. It was just a word.
I imagine because it is such a reaction, that the tone is similar through it all, and that it has happened throughout our relationship and at sporadic times, not very often. Those are the hardest ones to change.
So tone is also interpreted different too, how one says it and how it is received.
Yeah, and
And yeah, go ahead. It's okay.
yeah, and in like reflecting on it is that I can accept that yes, it was intended. Now, intended from a pattern response is different than the choice of intending. And when we're in easy, relaxing, peaceful situations, that's where choice shows up. And when we're under stress, in the moment, in the flow of things, where the emotional reaction takes over. Both parties. Now, here's the thing: it's like, and both parties play a role in it. The disconnect is there's one party thinks it's the other party.
Yeah, and it started with the questioning was putting you in the victim role, and the answer sort of switched the switched the roles, and the other part didn't like switching roles.
Yeah. And I mean, it's seeing patterns, right? Seeing our own and seeing others, and not judging them. That's the key. Not blaming them, not being a victim of them. That's the only thing that matters in the awareness. It's the only way we change something.
Yes.
It's not participating in the drama of the trigger.
Yeah, the emotional.
You
and
can
I did.
Yeah.
And I did. It's like I couldn't help it. I could only notice it after the fact. But it's in those. There's but follows some kind of blame, judger, or victim. Like it's setting it up for it. Just a fascinating observation. And it's like, and the problem, like what I see, the wrestle with it for me is that those situations don't happen frequently enough to change them.
Isn't that interesting?
Oh, Jesse, but they can. They
They
can with
can.
you. They can with
Yeah.
you. Just like an athlete running a race or working the pommel horse, they are envisioning their routine. And you can envision those types of situations and prepare yourself as to how to cope with them. And it
Very
becomes an
good.
automatic with that
Yes.
because you are
Very
rewiring
good.
your brain. You're rewiring your body because it's your body that is reacting.
It's not a
And then
light
it's
switch.
right, right. But if you go
It's
through
progress. Progress.
yes. But think of it as an athlete.
Mhm.
How does an athlete train for an event? And you can use
Over and
that
over
type.
again. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Just different situations happening in your race or in your routine. And, might be a water spot on the floor and they're trying to do their cartwheels and flips and they hit this water spot. What are they going to do? How are they going to come out of it gracefully? They're running a race and somebody
Another,
elbows them into the other lane. What are they going to do?
I just want to emphasize that we use our imagination to prepare, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice one, Annette.
Which is, we do that in our silence and our meditation, in ourselves when the situations are peaceful.
Yes.
Pre-paving, that's a great word, Ali. Pre-paving. Setting up the road that we're going to travel, which is a progression.
Mhm.
So as part of us is to recognize the progression,
Mm.
the progress. That builds momentum for more because it's
Mhm.
rewarding the behavior. Behavior, such a fascinating, it just fascinates me.
So I'm zoning in and out. It's like on what the conversation is. And my mind is trying to like gather up the information that you all are disseminating with prior to me getting on the line. So what I'm getting for myself is that when incidences occur and they leave me with a residue of unrest or not feeling good or confrontation or maybe even guilt that I participated in perpetuating a bad vibration for someone else and myself. Like sometimes we don't like the outcome of stuff, our own behaviors. And we're guilty. We find ourselves guilty. So not to take on guilt, but because we got a result that we didn't want. It's like stepping in walking down the street, and all of a sudden you done stepped in a pile of shit, and your foot stinks. You don't like it. So what I'm getting is, okay, that happened. Do we revel in the guilt that you walked into something and you reacted with that emotion, with that anger, with that pissnicity, and that inner defender came out fighting? Okay, what's done is done. It's done. Now there's different layers to this. This is, do you get a hose and you clean the shit off? You get new sneakers? What do you do? But when you're dealing with your emotions and others too, that comes in all these layers, a hose is not always going to get it. Saying, I'm sorry. You're sorry? You're sorry? Are you really sorry? Because you've permeated layers of that inner child in them and you that instantaneously defended and responded. And in doing so, it just dug the knife in deeper. Now it's not only shit, it's quicksand. And the more you move in it, the deeper it gets. Be like, man, this is fucked up. Let's just get a divorce, okay? But your heart, your superconscious knowingness knows there's always an olive branch. The heart always knows there's an olive branch. It may not be as prevalent or as visible or as instantaneous or quick responsive as anything else, only because it's a muscle that we haven't exercised over these type of circumstances before. It has the upper hand, but it never forces itself. The olive branch never forces itself.
Mm.
So when you upper room it and extend that olive branch, you might have to stand there in super consciousness and just let them freaking beat you on the chest because you know their pain.
Mm-hmm.
And you know your pain. And because you know your pain, you know their pain. And it's gotta come out somewhere. And so now the event has happened. The offenses have been taken. The anger has ensued even more. Somebody who wants more, who knows more, who has that olive branch heart in them just has to stand and take the beating, because you know that the beating is not your beating. You know, you put your own pain aside temporarily to relieve the atmosphere of the pressure so that you can create an atmosphere where your pressure can be relieved too. And what relieves it? A tantrum baby eventually gets tired and it stops and you breathe.
Mm.
So it's a lot of work, and sometimes it can happen in a flash and sometimes it takes days. But where are you going? What do you want?
Mm.
And you may put a bandage on, but bandages need to be changed and refreshed. And doing that intentionally for the atmosphere. It's like, I know you were mad at me. I know what I did. I know what I said. I feel like it may still be hurting you. Talk to me about it. I don't care if you tell me the same thing 20 times. If there's pressure building up on this issue, I care. I love you. I love myself enough to create an atmosphere of love to relieve the pressure. And then you take care of yourself simultaneously as well to go get atmosphere of healing, because we can't always get healing in the same place where we stepped in the shit. And I think that's often what we want. We want the shit to be a bed of roses now because that's where the offense took place. No, wherever your healing comes, enjoy the healing. And so we can walk through, we can think through, we can feel through what is the evidence of what do we want. And by creating that in our mind and in our heart, we are perpetuating an atmosphere where healing can ensue and begin and not look for it to happen all at one time. Yeah, I sprayed the hose off of my shoes, the shit off my shoes. But you know what? I can't save these shoes. These shoes stink. I'm going to get rid of this whole structure. And And that means we have to give up something too that we've been comfortable with. And are we willing to do that for love, new love?
Like you said, Jesse, you didn't react to the three first question. It was the fourth that made you react. You actually, your automatic wasn't as fast as it used to be.
Yes. Progress.
Mm-hmm. Big progress.
The only problem was at the end you took it personally.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah. You just said,
Yeah, in the moment you
it's
did.
her perspective. It's her perspective. It's her perspective.
Okay, so if you take a picture of this, you can call that number. Boxy.
Good morning, Chi. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Morning.
Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning, Chi.
Good morning. Yeah, I was listening on YouTube. Just want to say hi to everyone.
It's good to be with you.
Good to be here. I was listening to the conversation. Interesting.
Mm.
What I'm practicing now is surrendering.
Mm.
Surrendering to the higher self.
Mm-hmm.
The higher self is love. It's the truth. It's the opposite of blame, shame, guilt, fear, all those. Which is the part of the ego. Our ego is formed and shaped by society, by the family.
Mm.
100%.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
Mm-mm. You didn't interrupt. You added.
I thought that and you said it. Mhm.
And it's a good example of the truth there. The truth is you used to be allowed to turn left there, but you weren't allowed today. So the truth had changed.
So you change the pattern or the pattern changes and you respond to the change.
Yeah.
Mm.
So what did you do differently? Meditate more, sit in nature more.
Yeah. What it's like a progress, and only when the situations come up are we really test it. And what I would say is like, what do I practice more of? No, I haven't recently, but I can say like, what did I do as a result of it was replay it. And in the replay is real, like noticing what are the triggers, right? And then how do I respond differently?
Mm.
it's that response. It's like retraining that response, rewiring that response, because that is how you turn, that's how you get to a light switch.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say reframe, but it's more than a reframe for me with what you said there, Jessie. You know, because your first thought for yourself, which comes from the victim, is I can't flip a flippin' light switch. You know, that's our first
Yeah.
thought in our defense, right?
Yeah.
Is what the hell do you want from me? Like, and what you're saying is that what you're realizing is that as you go back and reflect, that you reflect through a different lens. And that's where the change comes in, is our awareness to do the reflection through a different lens.
It's like you said, what, a week ago or so, being aware of the awareness.
Yes. Good reminder, Hans. That beautiful awareness.
And the ego can only take so much of a beating until it will react.
Yeah. It's just moving the needle.
Mm-hmm.
Teaching the unconscious mind that it's safe to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like having the kids in the back of the car asking, are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Yeah.
Are we there yet?
Yeah.
And not responding.
Yeah. That's so true.
Well, everybody, thank you so much for this morning again. It was wonderful to be with everybody, and I've had the perfect start to my day.
Well, you have
So
a blessed
have a
day.
great day.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, I don't know if there will be a call. I will do my best. I'm getting in late tomorrow morning and traveling an hour and a half. So my pillow is gonna hit my head's gonna hit the pillow about 4 o'clock local
Oh.
time. So
Well,
You
do you
drive
need more
safely,
than an
Jesse.
hour's rest, Jesse?
unlike you, Heinz, I cannot operate very well.
Well, you can just do like me, just take a nap during the call.
Yeah, yes, I've been known to be right on that edge.
Well, I pushed the envelope above that. I actually go to sleep then. I
Perfect.
believe there's a couple of YouTubes recording me of snoring.
Or mine. It's one of the two. So
Well, you all have a blessed day.
thank you. You all too.
Yeah,
Bye
have a
bye.
safe journey. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Care one.
Thank you, Chi.
Safe travels.
Yeah, drive safely.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good
Ellie.
night, Ellie.
Good night.
Good night, Allie.